Hi, welcome to Hormone Heaven. This is Dr. Angel. I'm a thyroid and perimenopause expert with 15 years experience. This podcast is for women who are struggling with thyroid or perimenopause and are looking for natural solutions. It's a micropod because I like to give quick, bite-sized information that you can implement immediately in your daily life. Please keep in mind, I'm a doctor, but I'm not your doctor. So please check with your healthcare provider before beginning or ending any supplements or medications. Let's get started. Today, I have my second guest I've ever had on the show. Her name is Monika Eva. Monika is a two-time board certified hormone nutritionist who has helped thousands of women release weight, regain their energy and libido. And I know y'all are interested in libido because anytime I say anything about libido, I get lots of clicks. So you can also listen to her on her podcast, the Balanced Body Podcast. And I am so excited she's here with me today. Thank you, Monika.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm buzzing with energy and I'm so happy that I'm your second guest.
So tell me how you got in this space.
So I'm going to keep this short. I'm going to give you the cold notes version of this. But basically, I was always a very health conscious individual for the most part since I became like an adult. And something happened where I just felt tired all the time. So this would have happened in my early 20s or so. I was in undergrad and I don't know what it was, but I just didn't feel like I had all this energy. All of my friends always wanted to go out and party and just had all this energy for all these things. Meanwhile, I didn't. And then once I graduated and started working in the legal industry, things just kept getting worse. And so it wasn't just the energy, but I also noticed that the weight wasn't coming off the way that it normally would have. Like there was a lot of weight fluctuations that I had seen. So I would lose 10 pounds, gain 15, and just the weight kept creeping up and up, regardless of how healthy I ate, how many caloric deficits I was in, how much I tracked my macros. And so it just got to a point where I was very, very frustrated. So I went to see my doctor and said, I'm noticing these changes and I don't know what's going on, but something is not right. And my doctor ran some standard blood labs, said, maybe it's your thyroid. Let's take a look. And everything came back normal.
Of course.
I knew there was no freaking way it was possible for everything to be normal because I felt everything but normal in my body. And so this really led me down the road of going further into and learning about holistic nutrition. So I enrolled in holistic nutrition school, mostly to figure out my own issues. And then once I was there, I thought, I think I have a hormone imbalance and nobody's testing my hormones properly because I was too young, so to speak, based off what my doctor was saying, to have any hormone imbalances. They're like, it's not your hormones, you're way too young for it. And so I had limited knowledge of what that really meant. And so that brought me to get board certified down the road, understand like Dutch testing, proper hormone testing, gut health testing. And lo and behold, once I ran the functional tests, once I implemented like these holistic lifestyle practices, learned more about nutrition and reducing inflammation and balancing hormones, it was like the weight melted off. The energy came back and I just knew that I had to share this with all the women in the world because it was such a relief to find out that I wasn't crazy, that there was something wrong with me, but there was such an easy solution for it.
Absolutely. And now you can spread that with so many people. And I love that you focused in nutrition because food is everything if we don't start with food.
You have to start with food, right? And I find that nowadays a lot of people turn to supplements very quickly because I honestly think we've been conditioned to think that, oh, something's wrong with you. You take a pill, you take a prescription, it'll solve things. But really, like everything that happens in your body is biofeedback. So your
Absolutely.
body responds to the food you eat, the way you live your life, like what are your lifestyle practices. And so we just need to get a little bit better at listening to it. And definitely starting with nutrition is the best starting point.
So I have a similar story to yours as I kind of reached a burnout point and was told nothing's wrong. And I have a feeling that we both probably had cortisol issues. And I know that's an area you like to talk about is burnout and cortisol. So am I right? Was that what was happening with you?
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, I had like a few different issues, but cortisol was definitely like at the top of it. So I actually was in burnout. My cortisol was in an exhaustive phase. And what that means is your body, because your body will always produce cortisol. Cortisol is your stress hormone, but my body just wasn't producing enough of it to meet the daily demands of life. And so this is why I was waking up. And even though I slept for 8 or 9 hours, I was still so tired. And getting up out of bed was such a struggle. And sometimes I would even find myself feeling a little bit dizzy or lightheaded. And you don't really think anything of it. You just think, oh, I'm just going to push through. But these were some of the signs of burnout that I had.
And so how do you address that now with your clients?
Yeah, so what we actually do is I like to run the Dutch test, and I want to see basically what's happening with your cortisol pattern first and foremost, because there is a pattern that you're supposed to have where it's called like diurnal cortisol, and that just measures your cortisol at different points throughout the day. And so we want to make sure that when you wake up, you have sufficient cortisol levels, and that 30 minutes after waking, there's like this increase, because that's basically telling you that your body is producing enough cortisol for the stress that you're going to experience. And so, like, we don't really think about it this way, but getting up out of bed is a bit of a stressor on the body. And so we want to make sure that we're producing enough cortisol to meet that stress response that's supposed to happen. And then as the day goes on, we want the cortisol to decline. So we want to make sure that that rhythm looks really healthy. Because if you're, high on energy, then low on energy, then high on energy and low on energy, that's a dysregulated pattern. You're going to feel all the highs and lows, and not just with energy, like even your mood and all the other things. And so that's kind of where I like to start things off. But also, once we have that information, or for some clients, maybe testing is not possible, starting with food is like the very first thing. We want to make sure that you aren't eating foods that are promoting inflammation, that are not throwing off your blood sugar, because your cortisol and your insulin, which is your blood sugar regulating hormone, they have a very special relationship with each other. It's very, very synergistic, where they kind of work together. So when cortisol is dysregulated, you're going to throw off your blood sugar. And if blood sugar is dysregulated, it's going to throw off your cortisol. So one of the big things that I do with my clients is ensure that we have balanced blood sugars all throughout the day, because it's going to take away from the amount of stress your body's experiencing. So that definitely is something that we do. The other thing is lifestyle, making sure that you're actually resting. So many of us think that, when we're hanging out on the couch and watching Netflix, we're resting. We're not actually resting. We aren't giving our bodies the break that they need. Like, sleep is considered rest. Taking a break from all the noise, having healthy boundaries, like this is true resting. And so these are just a few of the things we do, but it makes such a huge difference.
Absolutely. And something I haven't got into on the podcast yet, so I'm going to go back around to something you said earlier, is people may not know that Dutch testing is actually based on urine. And
Yes.
so a lot of people say, well, why should I do Dutch over blood testing or something? Do you have any comments on that you'd like to talk about?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the Dutch that I like to run is the Dutch Plus. So it measures your dried urine and your saliva. So it's very different from blood. Blood gives you more so like what's circulating in the body. And if we're talking about cortisol, it's actually not the best way to measure what's happening with your cortisol pattern. Because when you do get cortisol testing done, and I'm not saying never go get your blood test or get your cortisol tested in blood. You very much can if your doctor is suspecting adrenal disease in you. But blood will not accurately tell you what's happening with your cortisol all throughout the day. And that's why we measure it at the 5 different points throughout the day. We want to make sure that there's that healthy cortisol pattern. It's like your diurnal cortisol rhythm. And so that's the one thing. Also, with saliva, dried urine, it measures like the bioavailable hormone and also what's being metabolized. So what that means is how much cortisol is your body making and how much cortisol is your body using. Very different than just what's circulating in your blood, because you can have hormone circulating in the blood, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your body's either able to use it. And so that's a huge difference that I think a lot of times women just don't know about because no one teaches them. But once you understand that, it makes such a big difference, because now you understand why you went to your doctor, got blood work done, everything looks normal, yet you have all these symptoms that aren't normal for you.
Yeah, it's a cycle we get into. It's crazy. So thank you so much for explaining that. I've been meaning to, so I'm glad you did. And then I'm curious, and I'm sure I know the answer to this, but have you found a lot of gut issues will come through that too? You'll find out there's some gut things going on.
Absolutely. So I always say, you can't have balanced hormones without a healthy gut, and you can't have a healthy gut without balanced hormones. The two go hand in hand. And any gut imbalances, whether it's just the like dysbiosis, so the imbalance of good bacteria versus bad bacteria, or a gut pathogen, or where we have like the overgrowth of a bacteria that just likes to cause a lot of trouble in the gut, I like to say, likes to get a little rowdy, right, and cause all these issues, that's going to be a huge stressor on the body. And anything that causes this prolonged chronic stress is going to take away the energy resources that your body has, and it's going to negatively affect your cortisol, plus all the other hormones, because your cortisol doesn't just work by itself. Actually, none of the hormones work by themselves. I always say that cortisol is like this tier one hormone, and it has a domino effect on all the other hormones downstream. So if your cortisol is dysregulated because of this gut pathogen that you have, or this gut imbalance, it's likely going to throw off your thyroid a little bit. It's not going to allow it to work as well. It's probably going to throw off your sex hormones and so on and so forth. And so we definitely need to take a look at what's going on with the gut as well when we are addressing like regaining your energy or releasing any of the weight or anything like that.
And I think a lot of people think if my gut feels okay, it's okay. And I have to remind people that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah,
We can
I
have
mean,
things going on.
absolutely. Like, your body is talks to you in different symptoms. Some people, they're like, if your gut is imbalanced, maybe you'll feel bloated. Maybe you'll see it in your bowel movements. Maybe there's urgency. Maybe there's constipation. But other people have gut issues and they show up in their skin, or they show up in their energy levels, or they affect their mood, like mental health, or they affect other hormones. And so think like, oh, it's just my menstrual cycle that's going crazy, when really it's rooted from your gut. Whenever you have any symptom that you're experiencing, this is why I'm such a huge proponent of testing, is to figure out what's causing this symptom, because something's causing it. And we really need to get to like the root or the issue of what it is.
Now, you talk a lot about without counting calories. So, how do you do that with your clients?
Yeah. So, when you nourish your body with nutrient dense foods, it is extremely difficult to overeat. Like it's so hard. I don't know if you've ever done that, but
Oh, I have.
yeah. So if you focus on nourishing your body, eating these nutrient dense foods, balancing your blood sugar, and your hormones and your gut health are optimized, digestion's working well, and you focus on these foundational pieces of the puzzle, I call them, you're going to have a hard time exceeding the caloric intake that your body needs to just operate like it's just really really hard to overeat. And so in the very beginning, when I used to work with clients who had a hard time wrapping their heads around not counting calories or not tracking macros, I would say I dare you to try to eat 2000 calories of whole foods in a day, while after we've optimized your hormones and all this stuff. You're going to have such a challenging time. And so many of them can't get over 1600 or 1700 calories. And it's because like your body, like you can't eat so much, right? You're filling your body with what it needs. But when you are eating things that are highly refined or highly processed, it's so easy to overeat. And so this is how we can get rid of counting calories, or you being glued to like your MyFitnessPal and logging everything you eat.
And I have found too, and this took a little while to get there, but my husband and I, a few years, got rid of everything processed. And we're actually spending less money on food now. Now, it took a little while in the process for that to happen, but we're just not eating as much. And we try to explain, just like you said, it's nutrient dense food, so we're not as hungry. So you can get to a point where we're actually spending less money too.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of the products that are out on the market, you're paying for the packaging, you're paying for the fact that they're putting it together. And at the end of the day too, when you're eating highly refined, highly processed foods, like someone might think like, oh, a box of mac and cheese is only like, I don't even know what the cost is. Let's say like $1 or $2. It's a lot cheaper than if I went out and bought like brown rice pasta and whatever, like, a brick of cheese and made my own kind of thing. But think about your health. You definitely would not be able to eat the whole package of pasta and that entire brick of cheese. You're going to eat a lot less of it, right? But you could probably eat the entire box of mac and cheese if you made it. Also, think about your health. Definitely less medical expenses down the road. And so this is a lot of stuff that we need to kind of take into consideration.
And I think we have to switch our mindset too. I say this all the time, but treats don't have to be food. People will tell me all the time, well, I need to treat myself. Well, people treat themselves every day and they're going to gain 50 pounds. It's going to
Right.
happen. So I'm always like, to get a massage, go outside, go camping or something, do something that really helps truly treat yourself rather than just eating food that's not going to help us as much.
Yeah. And, for people, I mean, because I do work with a lot of women who also say very similar things about, I want to treat myself, or I need this, or like that glass of wine or that chocolate. But like recently, I've really like dove into it, and it's an emotion that you're looking for. Right. And so we kind of need to dig a little bit deeper and discover that. Like, are you managing stress properly? Are you giving yourself enough time to process emotions? Or are you sweeping things under the rug, which is now causing you to want to have that piece of chocolate because you're looking for like that hit of dopamine or like that feel good?
Absolutely. And if they do it on their phone, looking at the dopamine on the phone, they're actually research is coming out now that those blue lights make us want to eat more. So we're having the stress, the emotion, the blue light. It's loop there we get into for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how can people work with you? What kind of programs do you have?
Yeah, so I have a few different ways for us to work together. I am most known for my signature program, the Balanced Body Method. This is for the woman who wants like the full transformation. She's looking to lose anywhere from 10 to 30 pounds. She wants to 8 times her energy and just increase her libido, get back to feeling sexy and confident in her skin. We run all the functional testing. So we look at mineral testing, we run the Dutch test, that's hormone testing, the GI map, and everything is fully customized. So we do customized protocols to ensure that you're doing the right things for your body. As you also work through my proven 4 phase method. The other option is I have a monthly membership where we address the pieces of the puzzle, like the foundational things, like reducing inflammation, balancing blood sugar, optimizing digestion and sleep, and all the things that really matter and that you need to have in place in order for your body to be able to release weight in the first place. So there's a few different options available. I'm happy to share the links so that you can drop them in the show notes.
I definitely will be putting your stuff in the resources. And what kind of mineral testing do you do? Hair or?
Yes, I do the hair
Ah,
tissue mineral analysis.
I love HTMA. I haven't
Yeah,
done a pod yet on it, but I will be. So
HTMA is so great.
it is amazing.
Yeah, it's so good, especially for women who maybe can't necessarily invest in something like the Dutch test, because the Dutch test is a little bit pricier, and for some, it's not always economical, but it's a great way for us to get insight into your adrenals and your thyroid and just other things that are happening in the body so that we can optimize minerals, because obviously minerals are the spark plugs to hormones. And so if we want to have balanced hormones, those minerals need to also be balanced.
Yeah, and as everybody hears me say all the time, our minerals in their food have gone. So we've got to figure out a way to get them back in because we
Yeah.
all need them. So it was great having you today. Maybe we'll have you back soon. I'm so excited you came. And
Thank you
we will
so
be
very much.
Yes, and we'll be putting all your stuff in the resources. Everybody, thanks for listening. Again, her resources will be in the show notes. Please subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you can get the podcast as soon as they are available. If you have any questions, you can go to the show notes or go to alternativehealthwithangel.com. And remember, do not make any changes in medications or supplements without speaking to your healthcare provider. And the statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Thanks so much.